It was a bright morning in Ouagadougou, and the presidential palace was already buzzing with activity. Guards stood at their posts, and ministers walked in and out with files in hand. Inside the golden walls of the palace, President Ibrahim Traoré was in a meeting with his security team. But outside the main gate, something unusual was happening. An old woman stood quietly, dressed in rags. Her clothes were torn, her slippers worn out, and her hair covered with a dirty scarf. She carried a small brown bag and a stick to help her walk. She looked like a homeless beggar who had lost her way, but she wasn't begging for food. She stood at the gate of the presidential palace with one request. "I want to see your president," she said calmly. The gatekeeper, a tall soldier named Abdul, laughed. "Mama, this is not a market. You don't just come in here and ask to see the president." "I didn't come here by mistake," the woman replied. "I came from far. I must see him." "Go away, old woman. You're disturbing the peace," Abdul snapped. But the woman did not move. She sat on a small rock beside the gate and waited. 1 hour passed, then 2. The sun grew hotter, but she stayed. Some people passing by started to whisper, "Who is that woman? Maybe she's mad. She should be removed." But just as Abdul was about to chase her away again, a young female aide from the palace came out. Her name was Khadija. "What's going on here?" Khadija asked. "This strange woman says she wants to see the president." Khadija looked at the woman with pity, but when their eyes met, something strange happened. The woman's eyes were calm, wise, and peaceful. She didn't look mad at all. Khadija leaned closer. "Why do you want to see President Ibrahim?" she asked. "I came with a message and a gift," the woman said, holding up her small brown bag. Khadija looked at her carefully. "Wait here." She went back inside the palace, unsure of what to do. But her heart told her this woman was not just a beggar. 10 minutes later, President Ibrahim Traoré received a message. "An old woman dressed like a beggar insists she came from a far country to see you. She carries a gift and says she has a message for you." Instead of ignoring the message, the president stood up and said something that shocked everyone. "Let her in." The guards were confused. "Sir, are you sure?" Abdul asked. "Yes," President Ibrahim Traoré replied firmly. "Let her in and treat her with respect." Abdul nodded and rushed back to the gate. For the first time in hours, the old woman stood up and smiled as he approached. "Mama, the president says you can come in," he said gently. She picked up her small brown bag and walked slowly but proudly into the palace. Everyone turned to look at her. Some were whispering, others were shocked. Who was this woman dressed like a beggar? Why did the president allow her in? Khadija walked beside her, helping her climb the steps into the building. When they reached the main hall, the old woman stopped and looked around. The marble floors, golden curtains, and shining chandeliers didn't move her. She was not impressed. Her eyes were focused on something more important, truth and purpose. The door to the president's office opened. President Ibrahim stood there in a simple white outfit. He smiled kindly and stretched out his hand. "Welcome, Mama," he said. She bowed slightly and entered the room. They both sat down. The room was quiet. For a moment, the president just looked at her, and she looked back. No words were spoken. Then the old woman reached into her brown bag and pulled out a small wooden box. It was old, with carvings all around it. She placed it gently on the president's desk. "This," she said softly, "is a gift." President Ibrahim opened the box. Inside was a small white stone, smooth and shining. Next to it was a piece of cloth with golden patterns folded neatly. He looked up, confused. "What is this?" The old woman smiled. "The stone is from the river of my homeland. It is called the Stone of Mercy. It brings peace to any leader who rules with justice and kindness. The cloth is woven by the hands of our widows. It represents strength and the blessings of women." The president was touched. "Mom, thank you. But who are you, and where are you from?" She shook her head. "My name and country are not important. What matters is the message I bring." She leaned closer, her voice quiet but firm. "Allah is with you." The president froze. "You are not a normal leader. You were chosen for a purpose greater than yourself. I have seen it in a dream many times." I have crossed deserts and countries to tell you this. He listened with all seriousness. Do not be afraid. Do not lose heart, but also be careful. He looked at her, puzzled. Careful? She nodded. Not everyone around you has a clean heart. Some smile with their lips but plan evil in their hearts. You must open your eyes wide. Trust Allah, but watch the men beside you. There was silence. The president breathed in slowly. You speak with wisdom, Mama. How can I repay you? She smiled and looked at him kindly. Just continue doing good. That is all I came to say. Then she stood up slowly and added, and one more thing. President Ibrahim stood up as well, looking at the old woman with deep respect. Please go on, he said. The woman held her wooden stick firmly, looked into his eyes, and said, Power is heavy, but it becomes dangerous when carried with pride. You have done well so far, but your journey is not over. The people love you, but those who hate the light will try to put it out. President Ibrahim nodded slowly. Her words were heavy, her voice calm, but each word carried weight like thunder. Tell me, Mama, he asked. Do you see danger ahead? She sighed deeply. Yes, I see snakes in the grass. Men who will laugh with you in the morning but plot your fall at night. One is close to you. Very close. He sat down quietly, thinking. Can you tell me who? No, she said, I was not sent to give names. I was sent to remind you to always kneel before Allah before you rise before men. She then brought out a second item from her bag, a small rolled-up mat. This is for prayer. Keep it in your office. When the burden is too heavy, kneel and speak to the one who called you. No matter what, he will guide you. President Ibrahim took the mat with both hands. Thank you. You speak like someone who has known pain and wisdom. The old woman smiled gently. I have walked through many dark valleys, but faith kept my feet steady. Just then, Khadija returned with a tray of food and water. She set it on the table and bowed. Mama, please eat something, she said. The old woman thanked her, took a small sip of water, and placed her hand on Khadija's head. You have a clean heart. Stay close to your leader. Do not let your heart be polluted. Khadija was shocked but humbled. She nodded in silence. President Ibrahim then spoke. Mama, please rest here today. You are our guest. I'll send someone to take care of you. But she shook her head. No, my time here is done. He tried to insist, but she raised her hand and smiled. Let me go the way I came. That is how it should be. Before she left, she looked back one last time and said, Always remember, it is better to be remembered for kindness than feared for power. And with that, she walked out slowly. Outside the palace, the guard stood quietly watching her leave. Even Abdul, who once doubted her, now looked down in shame. He whispered to his friend, She may look poor, but she's greater than most of us. She walked down the road, unnoticed by the world, but deeply remembered by the leader she had just advised. Back in the president's office, Ibrahim held the stone of mercy in his hand and stared out the window. His heart was stirred, his eyes were open, and his mind was alert. A few weeks passed after the visit of the mysterious old woman, but her words stayed fresh in President Ibrahim Traoré's heart like morning dew on grass. He placed the small white stone of mercy on his office table and the prayer mat in the corner where he often knelt to speak with Allah in secret. He remembered her instructions clearly. Whenever you want to eat or drink, carry this stone secretly. If the stone changes color to red, do not eat or drink. Someone around you wants to harm you. At first, he didn't fully believe it, but something in his spirit refused to ignore her warning. One sunny afternoon, President Ibrahim was invited to a high-level conference in Bobo Dioulasso. It was a private meeting with top officials, foreign delegates, and powerful business partners. The event was well planned. The hall was beautifully decorated, the lights were bright, and soft music played in the background. He arrived with his usual gentle smile, wearing a simple but smart outfit. Everyone stood up to greet him as he entered. Mr. President, they all said respectfully. He nodded and took his seat at the head of the long polished table. Plates were arranged, drinks were served, and a special meal had been prepared for him. A tall man in a black suit stood beside him and whispered, Your Excellency, This meal was specially made for you by our top chefs. President Ibrahim smiled politely, thank you. But deep inside, he heard the old woman's voice again, do not forget the stone. He reached quietly into his pocket and touched the small stone, holding it tightly in his hand under the table where no one could see. He closed his eyes for just 1 second and whispered, if there is danger, show me. When he opened his hand and looked at the stone, his heart skipped a beat. The white stone had turned deep red. He quickly closed his fist. He did not panic. He did not shout. He kept his calm face. Then he smiled gently and pushed the plate of food away, still speaking politely. Gentlemen, he said, please enjoy your meal. Unfortunately, I cannot eat right now. I am having a little stomach problem. Everyone nodded in understanding. Ah, sorry, Mr. President. Maybe you ate something bad earlier. Yes, health is more important. He smiled and stood up. Please excuse me. I need to rest. Before anyone could say more, President Ibrahim slowly walked out of the room. His guards followed him quietly, and he entered his car. Where to, sir? His driver asked. Take me straight back to the capital. We leave now. As the car moved, he looked at the stone again. It was still red. He sighed. So, it's true. Later that evening, the red color began to fade back to white. That night, President Ibrahim sat on his prayer mat, holding the stone in one hand. Thank you, Allah, he whispered. Thank you for sending that woman. The next day, news reached him that one of the men at the meeting had suddenly disappeared. Another was caught trying to escape through the border. His security team later discovered something shocking. The food served to the president had been poisoned. The men who planned it wanted to remove him and take over the government. They thought he would never know. But the homeless old woman from an unknown land had already warned him. From that day on, President Ibrahim became even more careful. He stopped trusting people easily. He told his assistant, Khadija, everything that had happened and instructed her to keep it secret. We must always pray before every meal, he told her, and the stone stays with me at all times. Khadija nodded, tears in her eyes. She saved your life, sir. That woman is not an ordinary person. He smiled. She was sent by Allah, and I will never forget her. 2 weeks had passed since President Ibrahim Traoré avoided being poisoned, thanks to the mysterious old woman's warning and the red stone she gave him. He never went anywhere without the stone again. It stayed close to him, hidden inside his pocket like a quiet protector. On a bright Monday morning, he was scheduled to attend a very important meeting with foreign investors. The plan was to visit a large construction site in the northern part of the capital. Many government officials had already gathered there, and reporters were waiting to cover the event live on national TV. As he stepped into the car and greeted his driver, everything felt normal. The weather was perfect. Birds were singing. Soldiers stood in position. Khadija, his trusted assistant, walked behind him holding some documents. Sir, we must hurry, she said. We are running a bit late. The president nodded. Let's go. As they drove through the wide roads of Ouagadougou, President Ibrahim placed his hand in his pocket and, as always, touched the stone. Suddenly, he felt a sharp burning sensation. His eyes widened. He quickly pulled the stone out. It was bright red, and this time it was hot like fire. Stop the car, he shouted. The driver was confused. Sir? I said stop the car now and turn around. Take me back to the palace quickly. Without asking questions, the driver obeyed and turned the car around. Khadija frowned. Sir, what is going on? That appointment is too important. You can't just cancel like this. President Ibrahim looked at her with calm but serious eyes. I said we are going back. She crossed her arms in frustration. You're making a mistake, sir. That meeting is about billions in investment. But he said nothing else. As soon as they arrived at the palace, he got down, still holding the red stone tightly. He went straight to his private room, shut the door, and knelt on the mat. Allah, he whispered, show me what this means. As he sat quietly in prayer, a soft wind blew through the closed room. He looked up, and there she was again. The old woman stood in the corner of the room, dressed the same way as the day she first came, looking calm and peaceful. President Ibrahim stood slowly. Mama, it's you. She nodded. The stone saved your life again. He looked confused. From what? She pointed her stick at him and said something that made his heart beat faster. It was Khadija. She was sent by your enemies today. She was supposed to plant a bomb at the site. You would have died there. The president's mouth opened slightly in shock. Khadija? That can't be. She fooled you with her sweet voice and humble face, but her heart was full of darkness. She never worked alone. They paid her to betray you. President Ibrahim stood quietly, his hands shaking. He called in his guards immediately. Search Khadija's bag, then arrest her quietly. Bring her to the underground security room. Do not say a word to anyone. Yes, sir, they replied and rushed out. Minutes later, they returned. Sir, one guard said, holding a small black bag. We found this in her bag. It's a small device. Looks like a bomb switch. The president closed his eyes in pain. So, it's true. Khadija was brought in, her face pale. Why? He asked her softly. I trusted you. At first, she stayed silent, but after hours of interrogation and tough questioning from the national security team, she finally confessed. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I didn't want to do it, she cried. They threatened my family. They offered me money. They told me you were the enemy of progress. Who are they? The president asked firmly. She gave them names, politicians, foreign agents, and powerful businessmen who wanted President Ibrahim out of power. They feared his strength, his honesty, and his closeness to the people. He was standing in the way of their corruption and greed. The president's heart was heavy. He had treated Khadija like a younger sister. He had trusted her. She was taken to court, where all the evidence was presented. The judge, after listening to the full case, gave his judgment. For attempting to assassinate the president of Burkina Faso and working with foreign enemies to destroy our land, you are hereby sentenced to 80 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Khadija fell to the floor crying, but it was too late. The people of the country praised Allah for saving their leader once again. That night, President Ibrahim stood alone on the balcony of the palace. He held the stone, which had turned white again, and whispered, "Thank you." He looked up to the sky and smiled softly. Wherever she is, may Allah bless that old woman. No one saw her again. No one knew her name or where she came from. But one thing was clear, she came to save a nation. Dear viewers, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, share with your friends, and turn on the post notification bell so you'll be the first to know whenever we upload a new video. Thank you for watching.